but I'll be assisted by my two brothers, that is David Akandeus and Mark. I hope they're in. Yeah, so our topic of today is our role, the role that we need to play to help reduce plastic pollution around the world. And if I can give you maybe a little bit of an analysis. According to Geneva Environment Network, at an estimated 14 million metric tons of plastics enter the ocean annually, with an estimated 17 trillion particles that remain suspended in the ocean every day. As we speak right now, the world is producing twice as much plastics as those that were produced 2 decades ago. And of this, the plastic that is produced, only 9% is recycled. The rest find their way on to the environment. Some get incinerated, while some find their way on different aspects of the environment, the ocean, the land, and we meet them on our daily basis. As we walk, you meet plastics on the landscape. If you walk to the ocean or to the beach, you meet plastics along the ocean. So the question is, what is our role as individuals? What do we have to play as nations? What do we have to do as communities? And what do we have to do as companies to help reduce the burden of plastic pollution on our planet? On this panel, we had 3 speakers. Unfortunately, one will not be able to join us due to an accident that got one of her family members. So, but I hope she's following. We have Matthew Mensah from Ghana. We have Cara Gulen from Canada. Those are, and Salma Bishbish. So Salma Bishbish will not be able to join us because, like I said, she had an accident. So if my co-moderators are able to hear me, can they come in, please? Mark.
Mark
Oh, sorry,
here,
I failed to mention my name.
David is having some.
I failed to mention my name.
Yeah, you can.
My name is John Otieno.
I'm from...
Pardon me?
I said that you can introduce yourself and yeah.
On my introduction, my name is John Otieno. I'm from Kenya. I'm a graduate of environmental studies from Pwani University in Kenya, in the coastal city of Mombasa in Kenya. And I'm an environmental steward. I volunteer with Leaf Charity. With the Leaf Charity, we engage in restoration of mangrove ecosystem along the coast of Kenya. And it's a great endeavor that we do at the coast of Kenya. And also, I'm a research fellow with CRIMS Research in Tanzania. Yeah. If my co-moderators are able to listen to me, can you come in, please, Mark and David, please?
I am seeing Mark here, but David is having some internet connection issues at his end. So might be you have to proceed with the session, and you can go ahead until we get them back. And Mark has opened his video, so he would be able to open his mic as well.
Okay. So I'm seeing Kara Glenn is in, and it's a pleasure to have you in, Kara. And it would be great to have your insights and your presentation on how we can deal with plastics as individuals, like I said, individuals, as nations, as communities, and as companies. What the main goal is to how we can deal with plastics at individual level, so that we stop carrying on the blames to different people. What responsibility do we have? If we come together, what can we do as a people? What can we do as a race to help to help reduce the burden of plastic pollution? So I'm seeing Kara is in, so maybe we can start with her as our first speaker. Yes,
Hello.
If we can start with. Hello, Sarah.
Hello. Hi, everyone. It's so good to see everyone today. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy to voice our shared love for the natural world through this discussion on our responsibility and building momentum towards a plastic free or plastic and sustainable world. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. I'll answer your question, John, by expanding on innovative approaches that companies can adopt to minimize plastic waste through their supply chain. And I'm also going to address the issue of greenwashing and the importance of transparency in corporate sustainability efforts. And lastly, I will highlight how policies makers can support and incentivize those changes. I did want to introduce myself for a few seconds. My name is Kara, and I am an ocean person. I was born in Vancouver, and when I was younger, I was constantly out on my father's fishing boat throughout the coast of British Columbia, exploring and identifying different invertebrates around the coastline. And I've always just really been in love with the complexities of marine ecosystems. And when I went to study, I studied marine science at the University of Victoria. And from there, I've been passionately invested in the fight against marine debris and plastic pollution with several ongoing projects. And my overarching goal here is to promote zero waste communities and more so the circular economy. So I cannot emphasize enough the critical role that each one of us plays in beating plastic pollution. The polluter pays principle, for those of you who may not know, works in environmental policy to hold polluting entities responsible for the costs and impacts of their pollution, in contrast to placing financial burden of pollution on society at large. And as individuals, there are strategies we can use to be catalysts of change and ensure that polluters are accountable and liable for the pollution they are creating. And this can be as simple as using our buying power within our means, or providing customer feedback that encourages businesses to adopt more sustainable practices through their operations. And it can also involve shifting company norms towards having those requirements for them to pay for pollution cleanups, environmental restoration projects, and compensate affected communities. And these acts are important because we want and need companies that are adopting innovative approaches to minimizing their waste through their supply chain. And a sustainable supply chain could, for example, reduce plastic packaging, and this could be through choosing plastic alternatives, investing in package redesign, and exploring biodegradable or compostable materials. A sustainable supply chain could extend producer responsibility, meaning that producers are responsible for the end lives of their products. A sustainable supply chain could implement circular economy models, and this means having designs that promote resource efficiency and eliminate products that are meant to be going to a landfill or a recycling depot. And lastly, a sustainable supply chain seeks collaborative partnerships. And this means interconnecting between businesses and research and education and governments for the purpose of sharing best practices and supporting sustainable initiatives. And then we as individuals should stimulate this shift towards more sustainable markets by both advocating for regulatory policies and also choosing to use our buying power within our own means in a strategic way. So when we purchase products or services from companies that already have a circular economy model, for example, or already have products made sustainably, perhaps with zero waste packaging, we are expressing our own priorities and our values as a consumer. And this is key for driving market change, because as more and more communities actively choose a more sustainable business, corporations will begin to prioritize those sustainable practices to meet the needs of the consumer. And a major barrier here that I did want to touch on as it relates to market change is greenwashing. So I will be highlighting some examples here. They may be more relevant in some areas than others, but I think the theme of just staying vigilant and critical of how a product or a service is being marketed is an important takeaway that can be relevant to all. For those of you who don't know, greenwashing refers to the deceptive practice of companies presenting themselves as a more environmentally friendly than they actually are. And it undermines trust and can be confusing and misleading to consumers. An example of this is the term biodegradable. So this term is often incredibly misused on plastic products. In many cases, products can say they're biodegradable when only a small percentage of the material is made from organic material. So if 95% of the material is plastic, it can still degrade over time and release microplastics. So it's really a meaningless word within the context of plastics. And this has gotten to the point where some countries have banned these words within the context of plastics. And this is a pretty good idea that has been successful in some scenarios, because it doesn't really add value to the marketing brand other than misleading consumers. Another example here is dissolving plastics. So if anyone's used dishwasher pods, laundry detergent pods, or laundry detergent strips, those are designed to dissolve in water, but they do have a protective film comprised of a petroleum-based alcohol. So it's still plastic. It does not magically dissolve, and much of it does remain intact to form a sludge, and it can cause machines to get damaged and also ecosystems and fish to be poisoned. Another term here that's really commonly misused is recycled plastics. One of the bigger misconceptions is the concept that products made from recycled materials are environmentally friendly, and this may be the case when it comes to cardboard, paper, metals, but when it comes to materials from recycled plastics, there are some major health risk implications for ourselves and also the environment. And then lastly, my last example here is bioplastics and compostable plastics. These words really get thrown around, but the definitions are really unclear and unregulated for the most part, to the point that's just very confusing. So we just need to be careful about what the regulations are for these words, because there are lots of innovative plastics coming out, and we don't want them to get lost in plastics that are still plastics at the end of the day. And so the role of policymakers here, ultimately, we need to ensure that businesses are being genuine and transparent about their sustainability efforts. And to do so, we need to have that relevant infrastructure from policymakers. The role of policymakers here is strengthening legislation that enforce waste reduction targets, providing financial incentives like tax breaks or grants, 3, enforcing report requirements to foster transparency and accountability and act as a benchmark for improvement. And then lastly, policymakers have a role in implementing monitoring infrastructure. So having the capacity to detect and penalize on greenwashing practices. All of these functions can be driven by our individual actions and our collective voice. So when we actively engage in advocacy, sign petitions, write our elected representatives, and support campaigns on plastic pollution, we increase pressure on policymakers, and these strategies work. So policymakers are more likely to listen and act when they see significant public concern and demand for change. One final consideration here that I wanted to add on top of building momentum through policies and corporate accountability is the simplicity of choosing language that frames community perception of plastics and waste in a more sustainable way. Words inspire us, they shape our thoughts, they shape our perceptions, they determine how we think about plastics, and they determine whether we choose to take action or inaction. It's important to use correct terminology when referring to plastics, whether that be in schools, in communities, and in legislation, because words shape how we think about plastics and how we choose to minimize plastics and fight plastic pollution. So I think a really good example is the language used on single-use plastics. In some ways, these terms can be misleading because single-use cutlery, single-use cups, single-use bags, most of the items banned as harmful single-use plastics can technically be reused. They may be marketed as single-use plastics. They may be less durable. They may be more disposable, but they can be reused. They can go in the dishwasher. They can be washed by hand for the most part. And I think if we were to reframe our outlook, our community outlook on how we are talking about these materials and treating these materials with the treatment that something with such a long life has, we would be less likely to use these items in a wasteful way. And furthermore, it would ultimately prevent policies from being written with the loopholes that are allowing the plastic industry to continue to thrive. So my final thoughts here, we all have the power to be catalysts of change, creating a shift in societal norms and expectations. So by consistently choosing products with minimal or no plastic packaging within our own means, supporting businesses that prioritize sustainability, by holding polluters accountable, and doing whatever is within our community's power to advocate for more robust regulations, we send a really strong signal to corporations and policymakers. And this demand for sustainable alternatives encourages businesses to innovate, develop eco-friendly solutions, and reduce our collective reliance on plastics. our role as individuals is to build that momentum towards cumulative impact by committing to sustainable practices, making conscious choices to reduce plastic waste, and also inspiring others to follow suit. So yeah, those are my final thoughts. Thank you so much for your attention here. And I hope we can work together to hold companies accountable, minimize our waste, and ensure that we have a healthier planet for future generations.
Thank you for that insightful presentation, Kara. And now it appears that you are the only speaker that has checked in. So that is, I don't know whether to say that's a blessing. So we'll have you for the next hour or so. So if I can continue.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say I am a bit limited on time, but I'll try to hang around as long as possible.
Okay. So if maybe before the audience can come in with their questions, before the audience can come in with their questions on the question about industry and policy, I want to give you an example. An example is the single-use diapers. The single-use diapers. Here in Kenya, they are gaining momentum. They are gaining traction. The problem is the marketing on TV. You're being told, when you look at the marketing on TV, you're being told that how to dispose them, that you collect them, you wrap it very well and throw it away. The word is throw it away. So my question, I'm always asking, throw it where? Throw it on what? The companies that produce them, they make profit out of them. But again, when you walk along the streets, you walk along on the landscape, you meet them. You go down to the beach, you meet single-use diapers. So that is a plastic that is on the rise. So my question is, are these companies given too much or too much leeway? Are they abusing their leeway by producing these plastics in large quantity and not being held responsible for their disposal? Should they be held responsible? Should they fund the disposal of, for example, the companies that produce diapers? Should they be held accountable and liable for the disposal of the used diapers? That's my question.
Yeah, thank you. It's a really great question. And I do think they should be accountable. I think that we need to have that producer responsibility. And it's something that slips through the cracks a lot. There's a lot that is put on the consumer at this point. And there's a lot of language on not only having that messaging from consumers to the messaging from producers to continue to consume, but there's also that culture of disposal as well. So there's kind of two forces in play. And I think if we were to have more accountability put on the producer to have a place to take all of that waste, then I think that they would be more motivated to alter and be innovative in having a genuinely sustainable solution, because consistently throwing away items, even if they are meant to be recycled, is not sustainable. And within the context of becoming more circular, it is the last priority. So we need to be reusing items, and we need to reduce the amount of items that we're using within our own capacities, of course. But the messaging of needing to recycle or needing to throw away things is still quite capitalist and colonial. And I think over time we need to hold that accountability to the producer.
Yeah, thank you. Right now, because we had prepared 3 questions for the 3 speakers, but apparently only one accepted, that is Kara. We have 2 other questions, but before we move to those 2 other questions, I'm going to ask the audience if anyone has a question for you, because like you said, you are limited on time. So if any member of the audience has a question for Kara, please.
Note has asked the question about greenwashing, that Kara, why is it hard for the governments to combat greenwashing? We see a lot of greenwashing happening, and along with greenwashing, we have youth washing as well. So what are your thoughts on that?
Sorry, would you be able to repeat the question? I heard it was on greenwashing, but I didn't hear the details there.
Yeah, she asked that why it is hard for governments to combat greenwashing.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's challenging because, again, there aren't any regulations, or there are very few regulations on the terms that we are using. And that's just a gap that needs to be filled right now. So there needs to be regulation on how we're using those words, as I said, with terms like biodegradable. If something is even a little biodegradable, then you can say biodegradable on labels and in all of North America. And so that really shouldn't be allowed, because it's still acting as a plastic and producing microplastics. So there just needs to be more focused on those regulations. Yeah.
Thank you, Kara, for your answer. We have one more question, and after that, I would like to request that everybody can mark their attendance in the chat. I have shared the link, but the question we have is from Dr. Huda Javed, and she is asking that does any proper plastic management system exist anywhere in the world? So do you have any idea that there is some plastic management system, existing plastic management system in anywhere in the world? So we can take it as a model.
Yeah, another really good question. I am not aware of anywhere in the world that has perfected plastic waste and waste management. There are so many different strategies, but there is more innovation coming, and there are lots of different cities that are being very innovative and creating more foundations and philosophies for zero waste or circular economies to emerge from. But yeah, no system is perfect here.
Thank you so much, Kara. Everyone is appreciating your presentation, and it would be really nice if you can share your presentation with Otino or any other moderator you were contacted by. So, or on the email we shared, we contacted you at first place. So I can, share your presentation with the rest of the audience, because they really liked it, and it was having a very good details about the plastics, and it was having what actually we want to know. So thank you so much, Farah, for being here. Thank you so much, Otino, for being the great moderator for the session. And unfortunately, Salma and Matthew couldn't join because of some accident she had to face. But I'm really happy to have you all here. This was the last session of our series on 4th, but we are having another set of sessions tomorrow. And right now, I would really like to ask you all to turn on your camera so I can click a good picture of ourselves virtually. So it will be like an electronic selfie you could have. So please turn on your camera, and then I can take a photo of ourselves. And just take your time, turn on your cameras, and give a big smile, or you can pose, or you can have a reaction on your photo, whatever you like the most. So it's really nice. Hi, everyone who are showing their faces. So nice to see you all. Tehzeeba, Salahuddin, Ishfa, Ghulam, Adil, Talha, Kara, Otino, of course, Tawfiq, Mehboob, Shimaika, and everyone. Shimaika is a very constant participant of all of our sessions, and I'm really glad to have him every time. Thank you. I'm taking the photo in the next 5 seconds, and because there are 4 screens, so you have to keep on smiling just to make sure you are in the right screen of the selfie. So 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. One more selfie I would like to take. So you can have a reaction or heart like I'm going to make on myself. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you, everyone. And I have shared the link in the chat. You can mark your attendance, because this is the only way you can get the participation certificate. Thank you, everyone who have stayed with us for the whole series of 4th June. Thank you so much, Kara, for being the wonderful speaker for us and handling the show. And you were amazing. And it was so great to connect with you. Also, Othino, you were amazing moderator. And the audience is also great today. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being the the people who are worried about climate and they want to be on the journey of learning and unlearning about climate and sorry, plastic. Climate is all over the space. Sorry about plastic. And thank you so much. Yeah, you will get your certificate in the couple of days. Yep. And we'll just mark your attendance. And if you have marked your attendance, you can leave the meeting as well. You just have to mark your attendance. I'm sharing the link again. You're just required to mark your attendance and then you can leave the meeting because this was the last session. And yeah, the session tomorrow will be on the same time. It will start at 6 p.m. GMT 5. Like it will be like 6 p.m. Pakistan time. We will have one session at 6, the other one at 7, and the last one will be for the Pakistanis because it will be bilingual. It will be in English and Urdu. But for the international audience, we will have 2 sessions tomorrow that will be on 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being the great audience. You were amazing. The questions were very nice. Your participation was amazing. And I really enjoyed all the questions and the conversations and the type of linkages you built. So thank you so much for being here. If you have marked your attendance, you are free to leave this meeting and see you tomorrow. And stay tuned with us. We will also share the links for tomorrow, and we will also mark your calendars for tomorrow. So stay tuned and join us tomorrow as well to complete the full series. And yeah, you know that the people who are attending the full series are going to be awarded a special award, which is a Plastic Warrior Award. So I'm really excited. I'm thinking that there are a lot of people who are going to get this award because I'm seeing a lot of similar faces throughout the series, but it is great that you are so enthusiastic about learning about plastics. Thank you, everyone, and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Same to you. Thank you so much. We're happy to hear you.
Happy to hear you too. If you have marked your attendance, you can leave the meeting. So I could, know that who hasn't marked their attendance. It would be easy for me to navigate,
Yeah.
and then I can end the call. So just if you have marked your attendance, feel free to leave the call.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Mark. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for our presentation today. It was a key important to us. We're happy to join this presentation. Even we happy even tomorrow to join it again. God bless you, all of you.
God bless you too. Bye-bye. The link is still in the chat. So if you have missed it, you can still mark your attendance and you will get certificate in a couple of days because it is a whole set of sessions we are having, and we are going to announce the award as well. So it will take like 2 to 3 days to receive your certificate, but we will make sure to send your